I gotta show you guys. I had a care package that was delivered to me earlier today from Seagram's Escapes. I got to give them a shout out here. They're not a sponsor, although, hey, I'm open for business. But they have these new spiked WWE drinks. I don't know if you've heard about these things. And I decided to try one during the show tonight, forgetting that if you look at the label there, it is 10% alcohol by volume. And I tried the Rumble Punch, but I think I may have had a little too much because I'm definitely feeling it right now. So this is going to be a very interesting review here. I didn't drink the entire can. That's the one in the middle. It's pretty good, actually. But yeah, I don't think you want to be you don't want to be guzzling too much of that. Solomonster might be a little spiked here during the review. I don't know, but look, WrestleMania is over, and unfortunately, what we have almost every year coming out of WrestleMania, maybe with a few exceptions, is the mass wave of spring cleaning that WWE tends to do with its rosters. We've seen this time and time again. And sometimes there are moves made that are not really all that surprising. There are other times where you have some really head-scratching ones. WWE has also, occasionally released one person here or there, or make the announcement like they did with Sonya Deville a few months ago that they weren't going to renew her deal when her deal was done. I don't know if this is a case where people have been immediately released or, and I think in some cases the answer to that is yes. In other cases, it could be that some people maybe were informed their deals would not be renewed when they expire, but we already have talent that are online putting out their email addresses for bookings in the next 30 days. For example, because if you're a part of the NXT roster, you have a 30-day non-compete instead of a 90-day. So there are people who are officially gone, but unfortunately, the Black Friday cuts are back. Why do they do these on Friday? For the same reason that sometimes when there's bad news to be shared, you get a Friday news dump. Because you hope that it'll get lost in the noise of the weekend and it won't make big headlines. They've done this time and time again. So unfortunately, today was yet another Black Friday in WWE. As I am sitting here talking to you right now, 15 talents between the WWE and NXT rosters are gone from the company. 15. And we don't know if there may be more to come later tonight, at some point this weekend, early next week. We don't know. That the door has been completely shut on additional releases, but we know of 15 so far. I'm going to get into this here in a little bit, give you the names and share some of my thoughts on that. As for SmackDown, SmackDown sucked. That's really the big takeaway here from tonight. It was a very boring show. We had Randy Orton on the show, no John Cena. But we had Randy Orton coming out and talking about his upcoming match next weekend at Backlash against John Cena. Didn't really have a lot to say that was too different from what we've heard him say recently, although it was a fine promo. But he did what he could, given that he didn't really have anybody to bounce anything off of. We had the U.S. Championship match for Backlash announced. It is going to be a fatal four-way, with Jacob Fatu defending his title against 3 different challengers. I will tell you who those people are going to be. Alistair Black had his first match in a WWE ring in 5 years tonight. In fact, that was the only match announced in advance of tonight's show. I looked at the lineup for SmackDown. I'm trying to put together the preview for tonight, and I go to WWE.com, and I'm looking at, and I'm like, is this possible? They've only announced Randy Orton is making an appearance, and Aleister Black is wrestling The Miz. And that was literally the only thing they announced for this 3-hour show. We'll just put one match out there. We won't tell anybody else what's going on tonight's show. Ridiculous. And we didn't get much more than that, to be honest with you. Although in the main event tonight, we did have a tag team match with the ladies, all revolving around the WWE Women's Championship, which is nice. But there was not a whole lot to get excited about with tonight's show. Now, there was an item in the Observer this week from Dave Meltzer, who said that he has been told June 6th appears to be the date that we will be back to 2-hour SmackDowns. I'm going to clasp my hands together and pray to the wrestling gods above that that is the case, because that day cannot come soon enough. Now, that date is not confirmed. It is supposed to go back 2 hours. Maybe it's not June 6th, maybe it's the week before, maybe it's the week after, but it should be coming up in the next month or so. We have another month of these 3-hour shows, and it cannot come soon enough because these 3-hour SmackDowns are just insufferable. But I got news for you. With shows like tonight, if this show was 2 hours, I'd still be sitting here complaining about the same exact things. It's not just an issue of, oh, well, if it's 2 hours instead of 3 hours, everything goes back to being great, or all of their problems are solved. No, you still need to have the creative and the matches to support a 2-hour show to keep people engaged. And right now, SmackDown is not keeping this fan engaged, and I know I'm not the only one. So even when they go back to 2 hours in a month, they're still going to have to shape up here and give people a show to get excited about. Right now, there's really nothing exciting about SmackDown. But going back to 2 hours will certainly be a big help, and I cannot wait for that. This is your Friday Night SmackDown review. Yes, Solo will drink to that. If I still had my Rumble Punch here, yes, I would. I would drink to that. This is your Friday Night SmackDown review. Your first one here for the month of May. It is May 2nd, 2025. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for hanging out with me here on a Friday night to kick off a brand new month. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open. They will, in fact, be popping up on your screen. There he is, King Kong Bundy with the 5. I'll be reading all your messages a little bit later on. I want to give a quick plug here. If you are in the live chat, you will notice that there is a link that is pinned at the top of the chat. And that is a favor to our good friend David, who does this occasionally. He has composed a poll of 177 matches that I have booked in our Be the Booker segments over the last several months. And so you need to go vote. The polls are going to be open until tomorrow. And so what he's going to do is he'll compile the results. He's going to boil it down to 14, the top 14, and then he puts together his little Solo Mania card. It's a fun thing that he does. So shout out to David, but go ahead and vote in that poll for him. And he'll be sure to tally up the results of that. So before we get into everything that happened on this SmackDown show tonight, we have breaking news. And the breaking news is that, yes, call it a bus flip, call it spring cleaning, call it whatever you want. 15 WWE and NXT talents are gone from the company. They have gotten their walking papers. And as I look at this list here, there really is just one name. If we're being honest, one name, maybe two, that really jump out at me as being very surprising. One very surprising, one maybe mildly surprising. The very surprising name, the biggest name on this list, is Braun Strowman. This is his second time now being fired by WWE. There's actually two people on this list who have previously been cut by WWE. But Braun Strowman, he was released once before. Triple H brought him back to the company. This surprises me. Because I think that what they have had Strowman doing in the time that he has been back has largely been good. You know, one of the highlights of Raw last year was that push that Bronson Reed got towards the end of the year, late summer, early fall. And I had a lot of fun with the Bronson Reed, Braun Strowman stuff. They had their little, feud there for however long it went, maybe a month or so. But I thought the segments and the matches they had, Last Monster Standing and all that, was really great stuff. And Strowman, he was busting his ass. Remember, he hurt himself. I think he tore his groin, whatever the injury was, kept going. He kept working the match, trying to put the other guy over, even with a torn groin. So, yeah, he got hurt, once or twice. But I thought his output was very good. And in fact, they used him in a similar role recently on SmackDown. Just like he was used to put over Bronson Reed on Raw, he's been used in the last several months on SmackDown to help get Jacob Fatu over, which, not to say Jacob Fatu wasn't over, but to give him a monster that Jacob could slay, which is what he did. In the end, he went over in that feud. So, they had their use for him, and I guess he used up his usefulness, and they decided, well, we don't really have another role for him, and so we're just going to get rid of the guy. And, I feel bad for him because not only do I think, he was putting in good work, and you could certainly find roles for him and things for him to do on the show. But they had that roast of WrestleMania a few weeks ago after WrestleMania Sunday. And there was a moment during the roast where Strowman was there and Strowman asked the question why he wasn't on the WrestleMania card. And it was Paul Heyman who piped up and said something to the effect of, because you're shit. Now, it was a roast, but, you look back on that now and it's like, all right, well, first of all, this guy wasn't on the WrestleMania card. And the last thing of note that he was involved in was a roast coming out of WrestleMania, which he was not a featured part of, where you had Paul Heyman say, yeah, because you're shit. And then a few weeks later, he gets fired. That's pretty shitty. For that to sort of be the punctuation on his run here in this company, that's pretty shitty. And I do feel bad, for him as far as that goes. He's somebody who will absolutely do well on the independent scene. If he wanted to, try his hand booking his own independent dates, I don't know, what he'll be charging for that. He'll likely end up working, signing a contract somewhere. Could it be AEW? Where else would he sign with? He could go to TNA. TNA has a working relationship with WWE. Maybe he looks at that and says, well, maybe it's not such a bad thing to go work for TNA. A year from now, maybe they bring me back again. I don't know. I mean, if I worked for a company that fired me twice, my attitude would be, fuck you. I'm not going to give you the chance to do it a third time. That would just be me. That would be me. I know me. And I know that I would be very upset about this, and I certainly would not, give them the opportunity to fire me for a third time. So I don't know where his head is at about this. If he was to go to AEW, it's like Tony Khan does not have a great track record of booking big men traditionally. I mean, you can find maybe some examples where he did there for a while, but, let's not pretend like he's the greatest booker when it comes to booking men of the size of a Braun Strowman. But if he were to go there, I mean, him working with a Big Bill or a Powerhouse Hobbs, that could be fun. There are people there for him to work with where I think if you matched him up with the right people, it could be fun. I just don't know that that's someone that Tony Khan is going to look at and go, oh, I need to have him. I got great ideas and great plans for someone like him in my company. I think it's just a diametrically different way of booking wrestling in terms of the talents that he pushes, and I don't know that Braun Strowman really falls into that category. But maybe they'll have a conversation. I don't know. I don't know where his head is at. But that to me was the most easily the biggest name and the most surprising name of all the ones here on this list. Now, I mentioned that there was another name that I would say was also surprising, maybe not quite as surprising as Strowman, and that is Dakota Kai. And Dakota Kai is the other one who also was previously let go by WWE. So this is the second time now that she has been fired by this company. And I feel bad for her, too, because she's had injuries. She had the issue with her knee. She may have had another injury, but I know the knee injury was pretty serious and she was gone for a while. Did the injuries play a role in her release in the way that they may have played a role in the release of Tegan Nox? I do think that it's very possible. She hasn't been injured. She's been in the news this week because people were bringing up the fact that, well, Nick Khan is out there talking about benching people and where's Dakota Kai, And she even tweeted or posted something on IG saying, hey, guys, I'm not hurt. So they haven't been using her lately, and now she's gone for a second time. And I know we have a lot of Dakota Kai fans out there. I know we do. I saw you guys in the chat before, and I know. So this is going to be one of the ones that upsets a lot of people. I'm not totally surprised, again, because you could just tell they weren't doing anything with her. Right? I mean, you can kind of get a sense with a lot of the people that I'm going to be naming here on this list. It can't come as a complete and total shock to you that WWE would part ways with them, because if they saw real value in them right now, in investing television time in them, they would have been actively on television and really pushed in some meaningful way. The fact that Dakota Kai has been off camera, off WrestleMania, not doing much. I guess, when was the last match she even had? I mean, it might have been the Intercontinental title. It's not a huge shock that they would say, okay, you know what? We're not doing anything with her, so we're going to let her go. It's unfortunate because there were things that you could have done with her, even in a tag team sense. I'm going to talk more about the tag teams here in just a second. Clearly, WWE does not give a fuck about their supposed women's tag team division, for which there is none. Let's be honest here. There is no women's tag team division. You have belts that exist that are held by people, and even the people those that are currently in possession of these tag team titles, they're singles wrestlers that were put together in a tag team, as most of these teams are. They have so many women on the roster between WWE and NXT, they could take any two women at any given time and smoosh them together and say, hey, you're a tag team now. And they know they can do that, and so they don't give a shit. So, for example, Dakota Kai, moving on from her here, Shayna Baszler, gone from WWE. You mean to tell me that you're shocked to find out that Shayna Baszler is gone from the company? Because I'm not. When was the last time Shayna Baszler was pushed in any meaningful way? The last truly meaningful thing I could think of that she was involved in was probably when Ronda Rousey left the company. And they had Shayna be the one to basically give her send-off because that's what Ronda wanted. Ronda wanted to help put her friend over on the way out. And they had that SummerSlam match. I don't remember it being very good. And she really hasn't done that much of note. They put her together with Zoe Stark, who's safe for now. But Shayna and Zoe, they were used as a tag team. Guess what? That team is gone. No more. There is no more Shayna and Zoe. Sonya Deville's already gone, so the whole PFC thing, I mean, that ended a long time ago. But Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark have been a tag team for a while, and now that tag team is gone. Caden Carter and Katana Chance, goodbye. They're gone now too. That sucks because Caden Carter and Katana Chance together were actually a very good team. I used to talk about them even right before they were called up. They were still in NXT. I said, you know what? They were put together. They had been together at that point for a few years. They were the closest thing to a real tag team in that division. They were coming up with tandem moves and stuff. It wasn't just two women that were just put together out of nowhere. They put the time in and they really tried to make that team work. And they were fun to watch. Then they got called up to the main roster and it was never quite the same. They had a little bit of success there for a while. If you're going to have a women's tag team division, you want to have some real teams there. I look at this list, and the fact that they got rid of these two right here tells me that they truly do not give a shit about that division. And if that's the case, then I really don't see the sense in even keeping the women's tag team titles around. I mean, we've talked about this before. The women's tag team titles are used as like a plot device, to basically get people over in certain stories, like they were telling the story with Bianca and Jade, for example, right? That's really what they were using it for. It's not needed, though. You can still tell those stories without the women's tag team title. You could do women's tag team matches until you turn blue in the face. The titles themselves don't really mean anything because, the level of competition there is virtually non-existent. So they took their one real true tag team and they fired them. Liv Morgan is one half of the women's tag team champions right now. She's gone for at least a month. She's off filming a movie in Japan. They didn't bother to take the titles off of her and Raquel Rodriguez. What does that tell you? Because it doesn't matter. So they got rid of... So Shayna and Zoe are done. Zoe's still there, but the team of Shayna and Zoe now is done. Caden Carter and Katana Chance are done. Liv Morgan is gone for the next month. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are done because Isla Dawn got fired months ago. All right, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. This is what they think of their supposed women's tag team division. It doesn't exist. It's nonsense. Maybe they could resurrect it because they've got a ton of women waiting in the wings and, in developmental. They got plenty of women down there. They can create new teams if they want to, but guess who else they got rid of? Jakara Jackson from NXT, who was a tag team partners with Lash Legend. There was even talk that maybe they would be called up soon to the main roster and they would be a tag team on the main roster. But no, because Jakara Jackson is gone. Lash Legend will do her own thing, but there will be no tag team there. So she was another one who was let go. Gigi Dolan, gone. Cora Jade, gone from WWE. CM Punk is not going to be very happy about this. Now, I know CM Punk was a big Cora Jade fan. Cora Jade is another one who, she was only 20 years old when she got signed. She's 24 now. She's still very young. Very, very possible we will see her back in this company in the next few years. In fact, I would be very surprised if we don't see her back working for WWE in the next few years. But she's already on social media saying 30 days. She's back to her old ring name, Elena Black. That's going to be her name now going forward. She's another one who suffered a pretty significant knee injury. There's a lot of women out of developmental, out of that performance center that have torn their ACLs. There's something going around down there. I think Nikita Lyons tore hers twice, right? I think she tore it in each one of her legs. So Ruka, like, it's not just the Cora Jade thing, but Cora Jade also had some injury issues. Did that play a role in things? I don't know. I don't know. You know, when they sat down to make the decision about who they were going to release, I don't know what went into the decision for Cora Jade. Cora Jade is somebody who I think is very marketable. I think they saw her, at least for a while, they saw her in the same way. So that one also, I mean, kind of like the Dakota Kai one, mildly surprising to me. But she's young enough that I would fully expect her to be back at some point. She's someone who I think is going to go out there. I think she'll do well, I think, on the independent scene and, you know, make a name for herself there. In a couple of years, I'm sure WWE will give her another look. She'll still be in her mid-20s. Again, unless her knees and her health can't hold up for some reason. If she becomes injury prone, then that's a different story. But yes, Cora Jade gone from WWE. I mentioned Gigi. I mentioned Jakara Jackson. Actually, Jakara and Lash, they just broke up on NXT on Tuesday. So they had to have some sense from the beginning of the week, at least with some of these names, about who they were going to let go. Because that's not a coincidence that they broke those two up. They were going their separate ways. That was on Tuesday. So this was not a decision that was made in the last 24 hours. She was not, by the way, the only member of the Meta 4 to be released. Oro Mensa is gone from WWE. So that makes 2 members of the Meta 4. That leaves Noam Dar and Lash Legend. Again, the Meta 4, they had just split up on Tuesday, so they're not even a thing anymore. Oro Mensa is gone. Eddie Thorpe, who just had a big feud with Trick Williams. Eddie Thorpe is gone. All 3 members of Gallus are gone. Wolfgang, Mark, and Joe Coffey. They've been there for many years, going back to the NXT UK days. They are gone from WWE. Riley Osborne, who was part of Chase University. Then they broke up Chase University, I believe, just this week after they disbanded them months ago. I think they just got the band back together. Riley Osborne is gone. And Javier Bernal, who has been featured as well in NXT. Not in what I would say is a prominent role, but he has been featured on TV. Javier Bernal is gone. That is 15 so far that we know of. There may be more. I hope not. I just made a comment recently. I've just talked about this recently after the Nick Khan comments. WrestleMania week. Nick Khan did an interview, I think on the Bill Simmons podcast. He was talking to, he was taking shots and digs at Tony Khan and AEW, and Simmons brought up the fact, like, do you worry about roster bloat? Something that AEW has gone through. Do you worry about that? And Khan, he said something to the effect of, roster bloat is a real thing, but then he gave some corporate answer. But I said at the time, I said, look, this is something the WWE is going to face. They're going to face a reckoning very soon, much in the way that Tony Khan did. Tony Khan took great pride in the early days of AEW not having to cut people and release people. But he kept adding so many names and signing so many people that at some point you have no choice but to either just let their contract run out or get rid of them. Because you can only sign so many people and they're just sitting around. There's only so many hours of television. Yeah, this is back before they even had Collision. It was just Dynamite and Rampage. And Rampage went away. Now it's just Dynamite and Collision. Well, now WWE signed Ricky Starks, and they signed Aleister Black, and they signed Rusev, right? There's talk about them potentially signing Mariah May when and if she becomes available sometime this year, which I think is very possible. They signed Penta. They signed Rey Fenix, Jeff Cobb, likely on his way in if he hasn't already signed a deal. You're going to sign all these names. It was just common sense that at some point soon the dam will break and WWE is going to feel like, well, we have to get rid of a whole bunch of people. Not because they can't afford to pay them. And I want to make that distinction very clear. This is a company that loves to gloat about how much money they're making and all the gate records they're setting. And right, I mean, we hear about this every single week. They're selling out buildings and we just sent this gate record and this is the highest grossing WrestleMania of all time. Nobody is doubting the WWE is making money hand over fist here. That's not really the issue. You can make $1 gazillion. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You still only have so much TV time. And what you don't want to do is constantly sign people, and then you have scores of wrestlers who have nowhere to go but sit in the back and wait their turn, and maybe that turn never comes because there just isn't enough time for them. We got to get Aleister Black over because we just brought him back, and Rusev is back now. We got to get him TV time. Ricky Starks eventually is going to make his way up from NXT, and he'll be on the main roster and all these people. So, of course, cuts were going to have to be made. Here we are, post-WrestleMania. You can almost set your clock to it nearly every single year. This is what happens. But especially now when they're bringing in all these names, it's like, well, what are you going to do with all these people? These people all of a sudden become expendable. When you sign an Aleister Black, all of a sudden a Oro Mensa or a Riley Osborne feels expendable. And they're the low-hanging fruit. They're going to be first on the firing line. That's why somebody like a Braun Strowman really surprised me. Now, maybe it was a case where Braun was also making a shit ton of money. I don't know that he was making the same, salary that he was making the first time he worked there when they brought him back. If he came back for less money, I don't know. But I'm sure, he was getting paid. Whatever it was, he was getting paid. Maybe that factored into the decision. They said, look, we're not featuring him in any prominent way and we're paying him all this money. Let's just let him go. For him, that may have played a role in this as well. My attitude about this is very simple. I don't like hearing about people losing their jobs. I think it sucks. There have been releases in past years that really make me angry because there have been people, Bray Wyatt was one of these people many years ago. Okay, not the only one, but I can remember that one distinctly where it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Because you have people that have the potential to be so much more, or they're a pretty big name in the company, but maybe they haven't been featured in a while, and then they would get cut. And maybe it was a Vince McMahon call. He's not there anymore. It doesn't mean the cuts aren't going to be made. There's some cuts that have really gotten me very angry because of a lot of wasted potential and just dumb decisions, dumb booking, whatever it may be. But my attitude is this. If you do not have any plans on using someone, then they should not be working for your company. Now, maybe they're content to make that money. Maybe they're making good money and they're content to just make that money and sit in the back. I'm sure there are some people like that, but I believe that a lot of these wrestlers, they want to work. They want to get their face on TV. They want to be out there. They want to be active. They want to be doing something. They want stories of their own because that's why they became a wrestler in the first place. They didn't become a wrestler to sit on their ass and do nothing. And then when they get cut, people go, who dat? I don't know who that is. I don't know who that person is. Right? Because, a lot of people are going to be looking at some of these names. Riley Osborne, who's that? Shakara Jackson. Oh, yeah, it's that woman they brought up on TV for a few months ago. I don't watch NXT. Right? You want to become a star. And the higher your star goes, the more money you'll make, the more prominent, right, you become, the bigger deal you become. That's what you want. You don't want to sit in the back. You don't want to sit in catering. Nobody wants that. If you're not going to use these people, then the best thing for them to be, let them go somewhere else where they can actually work, make a name for themselves, get their name out there. So that way, if they ever aspire to come back to WWE one day, and this has happened before. Drew McIntyre is like the biggest example of that, where they fired him and he left and he completely reinvented himself, his physique and his character. And he went out there and he fucking killed it. When he came back, he was a much bigger star. He left a joke. He came back basically a main event player. And he's making a hell of a lot more money now than he was when he was in 3MB. Remember when he signed his new contract, The Rock, I think, gifted him a fucking sword or something like that. So that I think is the best thing. If you are not going to use some of these people, if you truly don't have any plans for them or you don't see the potential there, well, we really don't see it, so we're not going to really, maybe we'll use them to get other people over. then you know what? It may be the best thing for them to allow them to leave and go somewhere else and try to make a name for themselves working somewhere else so that one day WWE will realize, shit, we made a mistake, or shit, we got to get this person back. Some of these people will end up back here. Not all of them, but some of them will, absolutely. And a lot of these people, I'm looking at these names here, not all of them, but there are a decent number of them who really were not being used in any meaningful way. You know, Eddie Thorpe is someone who we did see, you know, pretty prominently recently in NXT, you know, in the last few months. I can't say that I expected him to get the call up imminently, that they had a role for him on Raw or SmackDown. Evidently, they felt the same way. You know, Shawn Michaels maybe had ideas on how to use him in NXT, but I guess Triple H didn't on the main roster. That's what I got out of this. Because if they wanted him on the main roster, he'd be there right now. But if you're not going to use some of these people, then you know what? The best thing to do is to let them go, because you can't bring in people constantly and not have other people going in the opposite direction. You can't just bring in and not have people leaving. It just doesn't make any sense. And they're signing a lot of people right now, and they're going to continue to sign people from AEW or from Japan, you know, from other places. Look at all the talent they have right now in NXT. Maybe they're getting ready to make some main roster call-ups, which they should do, because there's a lot of people down there, frankly, who are ready to make that jump to Raw or SmackDown. There's been talk of maybe another draft happening soon. Maybe they're getting, you know, prepared for that. We're going to get some call-ups. So it's a shitty situation when people, you know, get fired and lose their job. But in this case, not a lot of surprises. And again, my attitude is, if you're not going to use them, lose them. Because it's not fair to them. It's not fair to them, and you can't tell me that if they're really not being used, that they're just happy doing nothing. I don't believe that. And I said that in AEW when Tony Khan would have people that he wouldn't use, and they clearly were miserable. You know, if they were tweeting and saying things on social media, it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. They have a contract, but at the same time, if you're not using them and they're miserable, then you know what? Shake hands and part ways. And let them go. Let them leave. That's the way it should be. Hopefully we won't have any more names announced. I don't know if they're done yet, though. So if there are more names announced, then even tonight, which I'm guessing at this point at midnight, we're not going to get any more names. But if they are, I'll break in to let you know. And obviously I'll talk more about this on the Sound Off this weekend. Yeah, Giovanni Vinci. My God, I forgot about him. Vinci. Vinci's another one. Vinci is another example of what I was just talking about. Whatever that guy did, he obviously rubbed somebody the wrong way. Somebody had it out for him. His career was on the fast track to nowhere. Still is right now, because I don't even know if he's out of his non-compete or where he's been. I haven't heard his name mentioned. But he's another one where if you're not going to use him, lose him. What the hell are you keeping him around for? This is not the days of superstars in Wrestling Challenge where, well, you know, we have enhancement matches on TV every week. We could at least use them for that. It's not like they do that anymore. You know, it's like, what the hell are you going to keep people like that around for if you really have no plans for them? Let's get into this SmackDown show. SmackDown opened with Damian Priest walking in the back, and he spots the Bloodline, and he makes a beeline for him. He gives Jacob Fatu a shove, gets shoved back by Solo Sikoa. Here come referees and agents to intervene. As all of this commotion is happening, you see in the background, LA Knight comes walking by. He's kind of watching this, and he just keeps on walking, and the camera follows him on his way to the ring. He talks about Priest costing him his #1 contenders match for the U.S. title last week against Drew McIntyre. So Knight said he understood what Priest was doing, and he doesn't have a problem with him. He started to say that Priest needs to pick his spots, but he was interrupted by Priest, who made his way down to the ring. He made his way for Brie mode. He was walking with a purpose. Man, I wish I had my can of Rumble Punch here. It's in the fridge downstairs.
Off is a direction you can fuck.
Hey, Brandon Proctor, thank you. I feel the buzz is wearing off a little bit. So Priest told Knight that we don't have a problem, you and me. And last week, everything I did was all about Drew McIntyre. He noted how McIntyre mentioned Priest's family, and he couldn't let him get away with that. Knight said Priest picked the wrong time to get back at McIntyre because the only reason the bell rang on his match was because of Damian Priest. And Priest said that he saved Knight from taking a pin. Knight told Priest, "Don't put your loss at WrestleMania on me." And Priest responded by saying the only reason things happened the way they did is because you lost your championship at WrestleMania. Which is true, by the way. Both of them ended up coming out of WrestleMania losers. Knight admitted that he lost. He said he wants to fight his way back into the title picture, and the reason he's not champion this week is because of Damian Priest. Priest said that all of Knight's frustrations are because of him being Knight, not Damian Priest. He said even though their match is set for later tonight, because evidently they were scheduled for a match, God forbid they should post that on the fucking website, but instead of waiting until later in the show to do their match, why don't we have our match right now? And Knight liked that idea. We saw a referee jog down to the ring, and they went to a commercial. Not much to say about this here. It was a means to get them in the ring early. It's a credit, I have to say, to LA Knight that he is still as popular as he is. If you don't believe that this guy is over, just look at the fact that he still gets the reactions that he does when a lot of what they've had him doing over the last several months is a whole lot of nothing. He's certainly not involved in the main event picture. He's not really doing anything that I would say is on the level of what he was doing late last year. And yet the fans, they still cheer for him. They still love him. Maybe one day they'll circle back around to him in a higher spot on the show. Right now, though, he's firmly planted right there in the middle of the card. But so is Drew McIntyre. So it's not like Knight is the only one. So they joined the match in progress. Priest set up for his old school. Knight pulled him off the top into a suplex. Knight went for an elbow drop. Priest caught him, though, and tried to set up a South of Heaven. Knight worked out of it, and Priest clotheslined the hell out of him for a near fall. He lifted Knight for a razor's edge. Knight got out of it, though, and he DDT'd him. Knight went to the middle rope. He hit his jump-up elbow from the top for a 2 count, and they went to another commercial break. Priest lifted Knight for a razor's edge. This time he tossed him. Knight barely kicked out before 3. Damian went for South of Heaven. Knight countered out of it, only for Priest to hit a broken arrow. Priest went to the top. Knight did his jump up. He nailed it, hit a superplex. Knight clotheslined him out over the top. He went for his drop kick through the ropes. Damian moved out of the way. Knight landed on his feet, but then he got caught with a flatliner onto the apron. When Solo Sikoa showed up and he attacked Priest, referee called for the bell. Solo turned his attention to Knight in the ring. He was setting up for a Samoan spike. And then you see Damian Priest, he kind of rises up like a sea monster. And he grabs a hold of Solo before he could hit the spike, punches him. Knight then drops Solo with a BFT. So now Priest and Knight, they're eye to eye. They're staring each other down in the ring. Then they turn their attention to outside the ring, and Priest leaves the ring. He goes and clears off the announce desk. He rolls Solo outside. Priest was going to hit South of Heaven when Jacob Fatu showed up. He hit a dive through the ropes onto Damian Priest. And then he gave a Samoan drop to LA Knight onto the announce desk. Hip attack to Priest up against the barricade. Fatu posed with the title, and the crowd cheered, because they love Jacob Fatu. Knight and Priest, I thought they were putting together a pretty good one here until the shitty finish. And I thought, well, we got another 2.5 hours left on this show. I guess we're getting a tag team match in the main event. Since we had no main event announced at this point, we are getting the tag team match, but it's on next week's show. It didn't happen tonight. Byron Saxton. I almost called him Brian, but I caught myself there. Byron Saxton. He interviewed Fraxium in the back. Nathan Frazier said they were excited and they plan on flipping the SmackDown Tag Team division upside down. Although I don't think they will be able to flip it upside down quite in the way the WWE has flipped the women's tag team division upside down after tonight. Pretty Deadly walked in, Saxton left. Kit Wilson told them the SmackDown tag division is the hungriest division. Elton Prince said that he enjoyed having new European blood on SmackDown and said opportunities on SmackDown are earned They are not given. They wanted to see how good Fraxium really was. They said they talked to Nick Aldis to make the match. So we got Pretty Deadly taking on Fraxium here. Fraxium, they got hot tag. Frazier did late in the match, hit a drop kick on both Pretty Deadly members at the same time. Frazier landed a springboard, so this was the spot that went very much awry here in this match. So he does a springboard off the ropes, and he lands. And when he lands, on the way down, he grabs Elton Prince in a Scorpion Death Drop position. And he drops him. And after that, he lands a running shooting star press. Prince came up bleeding. I don't know if it was from the mouth or the chin. It looked like maybe it was the mouth, but it was somewhere in the mouth area. You can see the blood on his chin. And he gets covered, and he forgets to kick out. Because he's still, I don't know if he was just woozy or he was just so focused on the fact that, shit, I'm bleeding. He didn't kick out when he was supposed to. And so the referee, she held up her count, even though he clearly did not kick out, clearly did not get his shoulder up. It looked terrible. I think what happened is Frazier's elbow struck him as he came down on that running shooting star. I think that's what did it. So Pretty Deadly, though, they took control back of the match. Wilson tagged in. Wilson and Frazier, they traded elbows until Frazier placed Wilson on the top rope. Axiom hit a Spanish fly. Frazier followed that with a Phoenix Splash. And the former NXT Tag Team Champions picked up the win. Outside of the awkward spot with the referee, I thought the match was fine. You know, they need to start feeding Fraxium some wins here on this show to build them up. They're brand new on SmackDown. The eventual match, I think, with Fraxium and the Motor City Machine Guns should be a lot of fun once we actually get there. B-Fab and Michin, they were in the back talking to Nick Aldis in Aldis's office when Chelsea Green showed up, along with her secret Hervis, Piper Niven and Alba Fire. And they were dressed in black. Chelsea looked like she was in mourning, like she was on her way to a fucking funeral. Maybe she knew something. Maybe she was wearing it in the spirit of these Black Friday cuts. I don't know. She said last week's loss was due to collusion. And Niven called Green an American hero, which I thought that was amusing. Aldis tried to walk away. Green bargained with him for a rematch for her U.S. title. Instead, Aldis said Zelina Vega is going to wrestle Piper Niven tonight. And he said that if Niven wins, she'll be the number one contender for Vega's U.S. title. And hey, if she goes on to win the title, then maybe Chelsea could be a part of Piper's secret Hervis. And Chelsea almost fainted at this news. Nia Jax, she made her way out to the ring to address the fans. And she said that while she was gone, she was at home getting refocused and regrouping so that she could come back and take what's hers, that being the WWE Women's Championship. Tiffany Stratton's music hit, and she walked out. She had a microphone. She was cutting a promo in the stage area. Said that, I'm not the same Tiffany Stratton that you used to bully around when I was friends with you. She went toe-to-toe, she said, with one of the greatest of all time in Charlotte Flair. Stratton said that if her and Jax ever locked up again, Tiffany would beat her too. So Nia asked if Stratton was offering a rematch. Is that what I hear? And Tiffany said that she wouldn't ever shy away from a fight, and she would defend her title anytime, anywhere. So then Naomi's music hit, and she walked out with a mic as well. She said that it was funny to see Tiffany and Nia fighting because she remembered when she tried to take the title from Nia, it was Tiffany who got involved. It was Tiffany who screwed her over. Naomi questioned whether Tiffany really was a changed person and said that she didn't believe that. Naomi said Jade Cargill ruined everything that she worked for, but even still, she's not done going after gold. Yeah, she was on Nikki and Brie Bella have a show, and Naomi was their guest in studio. And she talked about how her in-ring career, I don't know if it's over soon or just putting a pause on it because she's getting older and she would like to start a family. And that's something that you kind of forget sometimes, especially with some of the women on the roster that have been there for 10 years or more. Charlotte, Bayley, Naomi. They've been doing this a long time. They're the veterans now of that women's division. Some of them are moms. Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss missed 2 years. Carmella had a child, right? Had a baby boy with Corey Graves and got injured during pregnancy. Never came back. Got released by the company. Don't know if she'll ever be back in the ring. So there are some women that have stepped away to start a family, and there are others who probably would like to, and they realize that they're on borrowed time here because at some point, they don't have the luxury of waiting. I mean, a guy could have a kid whenever he wants to. Look at some of these Hollywood friggin' types. My God. What Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, there's like a common thread here between some of these actors. Fucking Bill Belichick has been in the news. There's a 50-year age difference between Bill Belichick and his I guess their girlfriend and boyfriend, right? I don't think they're married. Or maybe they are, I don't know. But like a guy, no issue. Doesn't matter what age he is. If he wants to lay down pipe anytime he wants to, he can do that. But if you're a woman and you want to start a family of your own, you have certain considerations that need to be made. Charlotte has talked about this recently. So you wonder with some of these women, at what point do we no longer see them on TV? Rhea Ripley, right? Buddy Matthews just did an interview with Chris Van Vliet. I think it was in that interview. He talked about how I think Rhea would like to have children. They want to start a family. Rhea Ripley right now is at the peak of her popularity. She's legitimately one of the most popular performers, male or female, in the entire industry right now. And I can imagine looking at that and going, man, I'm not ready to give that up yet. I'm not ready to step away from that because if I do, I'm gone for a year and a half, 2 years. Am I still going to be able to regain that level of stardom when I come back because the business moves so fast and other stars are made and now there's a new top star, and I can only imagine, all of the stuff that goes through their minds with this stuff. But, even he brought that up. So Naomi is, I think in her mind, looking at this heel turn and really hoping that this could be, before she steps away, perhaps to start a family, this could be her last big run here. I'm sure she wants to have one more run with the championship, but I've enjoyed the work she's done so far as a heel. I think she's putting her all into it, and I do wonder if that's part of the reason why, because she knows this is her last chance to, have that one great heel run here before we may not see her again for a while. But Jade's music hit, and she walked out with a purpose. She was heading towards Naomi. Oh, my God. Taylor says, girlfriend, more like handler. Oh, talking about Belichick? Yeah, that's just... That's a weird one. What's weird about that? She's posting photos of them together on her Instagram. And you listen, because when he gets asked about it, he has no idea what these people are talking about. So I legitimately think he just doesn't, he has no idea that she's posting photos of him and maybe wearing goofy outfits or something. Like, people will ask him and he'll be like, how did you know about that? And they're like, well, your girlfriend is posting this on her Instagram. And he has no idea. Like, does he even know how to use social media? I have no idea. It's a very weird relationship. Very, very strange. So Jade walks out and she rolls into the ring and all four women brawl. Cargill clotheslines Naomi out over the top rope. Stratton disposes of Nia. Nick Aldis comes out and says, oh, it's time for a tag team match, playa. We're getting a tag team match in the main event. This was the main event of the show tonight. I personally am not terribly excited about going back to the well again with Tiffany and Nia. But I was thinking okay, well, if you don't find it very exciting, then who would you go with? And I thought about it and I said, well, I have no interest in seeing them go back to Tiffany and Charlotte. We can leave that alone for a while, right? I'm very happy they're not going right into a rematch between those two. So cross that off the list. Naomi and Jade are still occupied. Bianca's got a couple of broken fingers, so she's out for a little bit. So Nia works as good as anybody else would in that spot, because really, who else is there? The other women on the show, now you're getting into like U.S. title stuff with Chelsea and Alba and Piper and Zelina and Michin and B-Fab. It's tons of women, but nobody is ready to be in a spot challenging Tiffany Stratton for the championship. So when you really break it down, what do you get? You get Nia Jax. That's why she's in this spot right now. I don't really have a better solution to that problem. I'm just telling you that it doesn't excite me that we're going back to this well again. Aleister Black, one-on-one against The Miz. Aleister, by the way, the music, when he comes out, I'm going to actually talk more about this on the podcast this weekend. I have 2 stories involving Def Rebel, who did not get their release tonight. We had 15 talents get released from WWE, and yet Def Rebel lives on. There is no justice in this world. What I didn't notice last week, it sounded to me like Aleister Black just got his original CFO's theme back. Not exactly. This is a remix version of that theme that Def Rebel did. There are some very subtle changes to it. Like, you can find the new remix it's like on YouTube. If you really listen to it, you could tell there's some differences. The vocals, I think, are exactly the same. But they're doing something new now. And this may actually end up being a good thing, because they may be able to do this with other CFOs themes. And CFOs had some banger themes where they make some subtle changes to the song, and that way they can use it and retain full ownership over them. Very, very slick stuff. So there are some subtle differences to his song, but I do like the fact that he was able to basically keep his old theme. So Miz ran at him to start the match, almost ran into a Black mass, but Miz retreated. The two of them went back and forth until Black caught Miz as Miz went for a kick. Aleister placed Miz's foot very slowly, because Miz was begging off. He very slowly placed his foot back on the canvas. That was a mistake, though, because Miz then caught him with a cheap shot. Yes, Quizzical One says, Def Rebel, spelled D-E-A-F. There are some songs that do make me wish I was deaf when I listened to them, yes. That should be their name, actually, Def Rebel. Black did his springboard moonsault into the sitting position spot that he does in his matches. And well, you know how like Sami Zayn, he'll do that like Arabian press to the floor. That move always scares me, because I just feel like one day it's just going to go very wrong. Black here, he did a springboard off the middle rope into a seated position, but it almost looked like he under-rotated. And so it put the fear of God in me watching that there for a second, but thankfully he landed it okay. So Miz was outside. Black reached through the ropes for him, but he got distracted by Carmelo Hayes, who was out there. Miz capitalized. He slammed Black's head down into the LED ring apron, and then they went to commercial. Later in the match, Miz hit some Miz kicks, and Black just laughed at it. He just looked up at him like, really, dude? He just laughed at him. Black followed up with a spinning elbow and a knee to the jaw. Miz came right back and went for a skull-crushing finale, but Black cartwheeled out of it. And Black followed up with a knee to Miz's face. Mello threatened to get involved. Miz rolled him up off the distraction. Didn't work. And from there, Black hit Black Mass. And that was all she wrote. After the match was over, Mello and Black, they went face-to-face in the middle of the ring. Carmelo was checking him out. He was eyeing him. He was staring him down. And then Mello slowly exited and walked away as Black sat in the center of the ring. Black looked good here in this match. His offense was well received by the crowd. Miz got more offense than I was expecting him to get. You know, I could say that he got more offense than he should have gotten. Look, Miz has been there a very long time. And Miz is not at the top of the list of someone who I want to see in a top program every week on this show. He is now in that category that a Dolph Ziggler had settled into, where he's fine to use and plug into whatever role you need him in. Right now, they are trying to use him as a way to get Carmelo Hayes over more. We've seen him in this role before, where he is used to help elevate somebody else. He could be a babyface. He could be a heel. Still think he's a better heel. But he's just not this feeling of excitement when I see The Miz, or there's another installment of Miz TV. I don't give a shit. At the same time, there's a recognition that he's been there for a long time. He's a Grand Slam champion, I think, twice over, or whatever his stats are. He's a former world champion. He's a former intercontinental champion, tag team champion. He's done a lot of things in his career. So the fact that he would go 10 minutes with Aleister Black, okay, so maybe instead of 10 minutes, they should have gone 7 or 8 minutes. But the fact that they gave this time and it was a little more competitive than maybe people expected, I mean, that didn't really bother me too much. But it was what it needed to be. You needed to give him a win, his first match back in a WWE ring in 5 years. Right? He wasn't going to go in there and lose. If he was going to go in there and lose, you could have just had him as the mystery opponent for Randy Orton at WrestleMania, but that would have been stupid. But this is not going to end any better for Carmelo Hayes, which they certainly are teasing now a match between Black and Hayes. I like that, even though I know it's not going to end well for Carmelo Hayes. I do like the match. Maybe they can extend it into multiple matches and have an actual program and not just do some random one-off match between them on TV in the next few weeks. I should mention Hayes is walking around with an Andre the Giant head on a gold, I don't know if it's bronzed or whatever, but it's an Andre the Giant head on a gold chain. I believe Miz gifted it to him a few weeks ago after he won the Andre Battle Royal. And he is calling it Dre. I forgot about Dre. So I wanted to mention that. Santos Escobar approached Rey Fenix in the back and said that he watched his match at WrestleMania and what he saw was the true embodiment of disappointment, much like this episode of SmackDown. Not only did he lose the biggest match of his life, but he also embarrassed the tradition of lucha libre by losing to a clown like El Grande Americano. Rey Mysterio picked him to take his place at WrestleMania, and he blew it. And now the self-appointed greatest luchador of all time is out of the picture, hopefully forever, he said. Somebody is going to have to take his place, and that somebody is going to be me. And Phoenix told him to stay out of his business. There's only one luchador in the world that he trusts, and it's definitely not him, brother. That's what he said. He didn't say it quite like that, though. If he has a problem, maybe he was. Maybe he was talking about Mr. America. If he has a problem, he will see him in the ring tonight. And you could hear the fans in the arena, they cheered, which was good. That was a good sign that they were excited to see Rey Fenix in action. Up next, we had Zelina Vega one-on-one with Piper Niven. This obviously was a non-title match. Niven had control, lifted Vega up. Vega, though, countered out with a variation of a code breaker. Piper came right back with a running senton for a 2 count. She ran at Zelina, but Vega moved and went to the top, and Niven smacked her. And then she went for a superplex, but Vega worked out of it, hit a Meteora for a 2 count. She tried for a code red, but Niven stopped it, hit a side slam instead. So Piper did lift Zelina, but that resulted in a DDT from Vega. And then from there, Vega went to the top, hit a moonsault for a nice near fall. Vega went for a code red again. It didn't work. Niven tried a power bomb. That turned into Zelina setting up a 619 when Chelsea Green jumped up on the apron to stop her. And when Niven ran at Vega, she moved. And Piper collided with Chelsea and knocked her off the apron. Vega then rolled up Piper and picked up the win. They gave them some time for this. They actually got double digits for this match. And we need matches like this. Even if you didn't think it was terribly exciting, the crowd didn't really seem to think it was terribly exciting. I mean, they reacted to certain parts of it down the stretch, but they were pretty quiet. I mean, that was really the story of Des Moines, I think, tonight, but I'm not going to really put too much blame on Des Moines because look at the show they got. But these are the types of matches that you need. Zelina Vega has come out on television now for months to crickets. And that new music that she has doesn't help because nobody really recognizes it. You know, she comes out and I'm like, oh God, you know, it's not good. But she hasn't been getting much in the way of reactions. This was the first time I felt like watching her here in this match, you know, the longer it went, where the crowd was really starting to get behind her a little bit. And that's good. And that's why she needs to have more matches like this. Going out and having a match with Chelsea Green that goes 3 minutes, it doesn't do anything for her or anybody. Going out there and having, you know, a 10-minute match with somebody, maybe it won't be the most exciting thing, but she's the U.S. champion now. And so if you want to, you know, create enthusiasm for a championship that really doesn't mean much right now, then those are the types of matches that you need to have. So, yeah, I didn't have an issue with it. It wasn't like anything great, but building blocks for her, building blocks for that title. Piper winning could have created some tension between her and Chelsea Green, maybe some jealousy, right? Green, it's in her name. But at the same time, do you really want to beat Zelina a week after she just won the belt? Probably not. So it was the right result. Backstage, Nick Aldis was talking with Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. Solo said that Fatu was telling everybody they better stay out of his way. Aldis said that at Backlash, Fatu was going to defend his United States Championship in a triple threat match against both LA Knight and Damian Priest. Solo said, hold up. Drew McIntyre is technically the #1 contender after last week. So all of a sudden, he's making an argument for McIntyre, and you could see exactly where this is going. And Aldis said, you know what? You make a good point there. He goes, I'll tell you what. Forget the triple threat match. It's going to be a fatal 4-way now with McIntyre and Priest and Knight all challenging Jacob for the U.S. title. And Jacob said, you know what? Fine. He's all gas and no brakes. He walked away. Solo said Aldis was trying to screw Fatu over, but Aldis said, actually, it's you who's trying to screw Fatu over. Actually, I would argue that it's Drew McIntyre who's being screwed over here. Now, Drew McIntyre was not on the show tonight, but he'll be here next week, I'm sure. And he is absolutely going to pitch a fit because Drew McIntyre beat Damian Priest at WrestleMania. Drew McIntyre, albeit by disqualification, beat LA Knight on SmackDown last week. He is the rightful owner of the #1 contender spot for the United States Championship, and now he gets his shot in a fatal 4-way with 2 other challengers. That is not fair. And so he absolutely has the right to come out and protest this decision next week. If anybody has a right to be upset about being screwed over, it's Drew McIntyre. This is bullshit. Randy Orton was out to the ring next to talk about his upcoming match with John Cena at Backlash in St. Louis for the WWE Championship, which they are now billing as One Final Time. You know, there was a time where I think they promoted that very tagline for John Cena and Randy Orton because they had wrestled so many fucking times that nobody wanted to see it anymore. And I remember at the time saying, I don't believe you. I'll believe it when I see it. So here we are. Yet again, they are promoting it as One Final Time. I'm still not convinced it's One Final Time. John Cena is going to be on Saturday night's main event on May 24th, very likely defending the WWE title. And it's entirely possible it could end up being in a rematch against Randy Orton on that show. So don't assume that Backlash is going to be the final time, because it may not be. But John Cena was not here tonight. So Randy Orton had to come out and cut a promo all by himself. He said, I know we're already 2 hours into this show, he says. And then, of course, I'm thinking, well, I could feel it. We got another hour of this. But he goes, welcome to Friday Night SmackDown. Orton simply said the name John Cena, and the crowd began to boo. Orton said that while the world couldn't see Cena, he could. He said it took about 20 years for everybody to realize what kind of man Cena is, but Orton knew from day one. This entire promo, by the way, is going to be very awkward when and if Cena eventually goes babyface again. What is Orton going to say? I was wrong. John was a good guy this entire time. He's basically saying, yeah, he's a fucking fraud. I don't know why you people ever believed he was anything but a fraud. So he called Cena entitled and said Cena is the ultimate shiny new toy to be played with by the ultimate puppet master. Orton said Cena took advantage of the PG era, said that Cena was willing to be a real-life walking, talking cartoon character. Meanwhile, Orton was true to who he was. Then Orton said Cena didn't care about the boys in the back or the fans. All Cena cared about is his bottom line. He said Cena only cares about the new merch that he puts out all the time so that all the kids can go and grab it up. And he recalled John last week saying that he didn't have a family of his own because he was too busy raising everybody else's kids. Orton said the only thing Cena has raised is the price of his merchandise, which all the parents have to work a double to afford. Orton said selling his soul is nothing new to Cena because Cena has been doing that for 20 years. Orton asked what happened to loyalty and respect when it comes to John Cena. He recalled how Cena said that he would erase the Orton name from the pro wrestling business. And he got fired up, and he said Cena will do that over his dead freaking body. Orton said Cena is the latest legend that he'll have to put down, and he will do so at Backlash in his hometown, in front of his wife, in front of his friends, and in front of his family. Orton said that he will punt Cena so hard in that Lego-shaped head that it will fly through the gateway arch, but not before he drops his ass with an RKO. So without John Cena there, Orton had to go out and carry things on his own. He did as well as he could. I mean, what else was there really for him to say? If Orton is out there, though, talking about how overpriced Cena's merch is, I don't know that I would be drawing attention to that because that's not really a John Cena problem. That's a WWE problem. This is basically WWE admitting that they sell a lot of overpriced shit in this promo. And people will continue to buy it anyway. I don't know that I would be drawing attention to that. Now, later on in the back, they showed Orton walking through the hallway and he ran into R-Truth. And Truth said that Orton has no chance at Backlash. And he was dead serious when he said this, and this caught Orton off guard, and then Jimmy Uso showed up. He stepped in, he told Orton, don't be too mad about what Truth said. Jimmy told Truth, look, if you keep talking like this, Orton is going to kick your head off. But Truth said Cena told him that, and that he's the last real champion, and he would never lie to R-Truth. And Truth walked off. Now, Truth played this entire segment here serious. So it wasn't real. I mean, obviously what he was saying is ridiculous, but he wasn't playing it up for laughs. This didn't come across like your usual R-Truth segment here. And it made me wonder, are they setting up for R-Truth, of all people, to possibly play a role in this match at Backlash? This is the second week in a row now that we have seen Truth on TV. Last week it was when Cena was leaving. He bumped into Truth in the back, kept walking. This week, another backstage segment. This time he bumps into Randy Orton. Right? They're setting something up here. Now, I have talked about after Cena went heel, I said, man, if you really want to cement this guy as a real son of a bitch, you've got to have him do something dastardly to R-Truth because everybody loves R-Truth, right? He's this lovable figure on the show. And he's John Cena's biggest fan. And imagine if John Cena does to Truth what he did to Cody in Toronto at Elimination Chamber. Like something on that level, right? It has to be more than just a fucking attitude adjustment and putting him in a terrible looking STF. The problem is, like, I don't know that Cena has it in him at this point. Again, this heel turn, that as great as the turn itself was at the Elimination Chamber, everything since then has been completely underwhelming. I don't look at John Cena and see this vicious heel. I don't know that he has it in him. But I think if they really wanted to cement him as that, that would be the way to go. But now I'm wondering if maybe he's got R-Truth wrapped around his finger and he's manipulating this man to his advantage. Are we going to see Truth get involved in that match or one of his upcoming matches and in this case potentially cost Randy Orton? Is that what they're planning here for the end of Backlash? Because we know Cena's going to win, but he's not going to beat Orton clean. So how are they going to do this finish? They could do the finish in a way that necessitates a rematch at Saturday night's main event. That's why I brought that up a little while ago, because Cena is advertised for that show. So maybe it's kind of like an undecisive finish But Cena's going to retain the title. Who gets involved? Who gets involved? Travis Scott going to come back out and get involved again? Or might they do something with R-Truth? I don't know if they will or not. It's just, I feel like what would be fun here is what they appear to be doing. As opposed to Truth going around and kind of moping around like, oh man, I can't believe John Cena. Yeah, I was his biggest fan and I can't believe he's saying the things that he's saying and being all sad about John Cena being a heel now. What they're doing here is that he is convinced that what Cena is saying is pure and is true. And he's still this noble guy, right? He's brainwashed, basically. He's like a loyal sicko. And I like that. I think that the potential to do something fun with this is there in a way that it wouldn't be if they just played it straight and it was like, Truth is just upset. You know, the John Cena's calling the fans mean names, because that's fucking boring. This has the potential to be good, depending on where they take it. Would I have him involved in the finish of a pay-per-view main event? That I don't know. It all depends on the execution and how they would do it. But that was what was going through my head here as I was watching this. Then we had Rey Fenix against Santos Escobar. Yeah, R-Truth heel turn. Right? I mean, think about it. All this goofy stuff that Truth has been doing the last few years, man, it's fucking terrible. Like, he's really good at it, but like, it just gets to a point where it runs its course. And it's like, is there ever going to be any kind of evolution or development to this? You know? Well, here they have the potential to really do something fun. And it's not even like a heel turn so much as it's Cena manipulating him, and the fans see what's going on and the baby faces see what's going on, but Truth is just convinced that everybody else is wrong. Cena is righteous, and just play that story out. You know, I'm not saying Truth is going to be the guy to beat him for the title, but there's the potential for this to be fun depending on the direction that it goes in. So Rey Fenix against Santos Escobar was up next. Boy, was this crowd dead silent at the beginning of this match, especially for anything that Escobar was doing. I mean, they were scary silent. And then Escobar yelled at Fenix, and we could hear every word because you didn't have to struggle to hear what he was saying here. Yeah, sometimes you'll watch these episodes of Dynamite, and they run a lot of smaller venues now, which is for the better, because it just makes the atmosphere is just generally better in the smaller buildings now that they run. But because it's a smaller venue, sometimes you hear the echo, and you could hear that one guy in like the fourth row says something or shouts something, and you could hear it like he's in the ring. That's what Escobar sounded like here in a building that probably had 11 or 12,000 people in it, because it was that quiet. And he's yelling at Fenix that, you know, you and me, we could rule this place together. And Fenix responded with a chop to the chest. And then Fenix shoved Escobar down on his ass. He set up for his double springboard arm drag. Escobar, though, cut him off. And Escobar ran at Fenix. Fenix moved. And Escobar spilled outside. Fenix followed him, and then Escobar ran him into the side of the ring. And then he got back in the ring, Escobar did, and he hit what looked like one of his old King Cuerno dives from the Lucha Underground days. Through the ropes, took down Fenix outside. That took us into a commercial break. After a break, Escobar leapt at Fenix in one of the corners. Fenix moved, and then he had a wild springboard top rope moonsault for a 2 count. Fenix took a knee from Escobar, popped right back up, though, and landed a kick. Both men were down for the reset. Escobar lifted Fenix. Fenix, though, worked his way out of it and ran the top rope for his goodbye amigo kick right to the head. And then from there, Fenix hit the top rope Meteora, and he got the pin. I am still trying to get used to the idea of the Meteora being a finishing move. It's been so overdone in other and I'm looking at someone in particular, but it's been so overdone and used as just a setup move in other matches that to see it used as a finishing move is still very weak to me. It's just going to take some getting used to. I don't need to see him breaking his neck on some wacky dive. I'm just saying the Meteora as a finish, I'm not used to seeing that. The match itself, though, was very flat. The crowd did get into a lot of Phoenix's offense down the stretch. A lot of the stuff that he was doing, they were kind of getting up for that. But, look, I wish I could say more. It's a flat match. Escobar. I mentioned Zelina Vega going out there on most weeks and getting no reaction. Escobar is the same way. And I think he's super talented, but you got to call it like you see it. When he goes out there, you could hear fucking crickets. Nobody cares. Now, in the back later on, Escobar was furious with Angel and Berto that they weren't there when he needed them the most. Andrade walked in. What the hell are they doing with this guy? Why don't they just give him a manager already? Why are they continuing with this? Andrade shows up, and he said he knows Escobar doesn't care about Los Garza. He said Escobar doesn't have respect for Los Garza. So Escobar didn't want to hear this anymore, and he left, and he demanded that Angel and Berto follow him. Angel followed him. Berto, though, stayed behind for a moment and shared a brief stare with Andrade before he was called away by Escobar. I honestly think that the only reason people like Escobar and Andrade, who are very, very talented, and, I wouldn't want to see them get cut. I think the only reason that names like that didn't get cut is because of this AAA story. And now that they bought AAA and they have Worlds Collide coming up in June, and there's going to be a lot of crossover with WWE talent working there and doing matches there, I think that's the plan is probably to use a lot of these names. The names that were up on that dais with Triple H and Michael Cole on the pre-show when they were surrounded by Vikingo and Rey Mysterio and Penta and Phoenix and Stephanie Vicaire and Escobar was there. And Triple H is like, oh, we have Andrade here, one of the most talented wrestlers in the world. And I could barely contain my laughter when you consider the way he's utilized on TV. And here's Triple H sitting there singing his praises like he's one of the top 3 in the entire company. And I'm like, really? You have a funny way of showing it. I think legitimately that's the only reason that they were spared from these cuts is because, okay, well, we just bought AAA and we've got big plans coming up. And so we're going to plug these guys into those plans. Otherwise, I think you would have seen at least one of their names on this list. Now, backstage, Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill, they were speaking when Byron Saxton interrupted and asked, how are you two going to fare in a tag team match as partners considering your history? This was the classic case of, can they coexist? Stratton said that they wouldn't have a problem so long as Jade stayed out of her way. Jade said that she would focus on Naomi, but she spoke to Nick Aldis, and she got a match. Next week on SmackDown, she's wrestling Nia Jax, and the winner of that match will get a shot at Tiffany's Women's Championship. I mean, you could see Naomi costing Jade the match next week, coming from a mile away, which then paves the way for Nia to get her match with Tiffany. They aired a video package highlighting the main event of last week's show. Now, I was not here. I was not here to talk about SmackDown because I was in Chicago. I did watch SmackDown. And so they showed a video package here of last week's TLC match with the Street Profits, the Motor City Machine Guns, and DIY. And while I am not going to sit here and tell you that it is in my top 3 of all-time TLC matches, because it's not, it was an excellent match. And what really benefited the match was the fact that they went commercial-free for that last hour. That really benefited that match in a major way. Because I feel like as long as that match went, and it was a long match, if you would have had 2-3 commercial breaks, it really would have hurt the match. That was one of the reasons why I was kind of upset that it was going to be on TV in the first place, and they couldn't find room for it on the WrestleMania card. But they went commercial free with it, so they had, the whole hour to just do everything they did without being interrupted. So it worked out fine. And these guys went out there and they wrestled like they had a chip on their shoulder. Like, okay, we're not good enough to be on the WrestleMania card. Great. We'll show you what you missed out on by not including us on the biggest show of the year. The prosthetic leg spot I thought was great. You had that fan in the front row who took his leg off. You see Montez Ford. He's about to go to the next spot. He's like grabbing one of the ladders. And he looks over and he sees this guy like, take my leg. He's like, yeah, fuck it. Give me the leg. And so he incorporated it into the match. He used the leg and he tossed it back to the guy. Not the first time we've seen a prosthetic leg used on WWE television before. I guess the last time would be Zach Gowen in 2003. And then obviously the Mad Dog Vachon spot in 96 in the Shawn Michaels Diesel match. So I thought that was great crowd participation there. But these guys just, they went out there and they killed each other in this match. And the fans, they went nuts for it. This was the real, like, I look at this, the Motor City Machine Guns haven't had that one match yet in their WWE run that you could really point to like their magnum opus and say, if you got to see a Motor City Machine Guns match, like, you got to see this match, right? They had no matches like that in WWE yet. Now they do. Now they do. So I was happy for them, for that reason at least. But yeah, I just thought overall, I thought it was an excellent match. The spot that, what was it? The spot where I think Ciampa was hanging and there was a Angelo Dawkins spear through a table down below. And there were some people comparing it to the Edge and Jeff Hardy spot from WrestleMania 17. It was nothing like that spot. And it didn't land exactly the way they wanted it to. It didn't have like the full impact. I think Dawkins landed feet first, whatever it was. So it didn't look great, but like, again, it was just an example of these guys going out there and just throwing their bodies into the most dangerous situations they can imagine, because they were trying to pop this crowd and make memorable moments, and they did in this match. So it was great stuff. It was one of the better WWE TV matches that we'll end up seeing all year. Kudos to all 6 of those guys. I don't know where the Street Profits go now. They've been feuding. It feels like they've been feuding with DIY and the Machine Guns and Pretty Deadly for 6 months. It feels like. That's why, Fraxium now being on the roster, that's why you want to start feeding them wins like they did tonight, so you can really build them up. But they're going to have to first go through DIY and the Machine Guns before they eventually get the Profits. I don't know what else the Street Profits are going to be doing right now. It felt like they reached that peak last week, and there's really nobody on tap as the obvious next challengers for them. Angel and Berto are doing whatever they're doing with, Escobar and Andrade. I don't know who's next. Can't go to Fraxium. It's too soon. I don't know. I don't know who's next for them. But the women got the main event on this show. Speaking of tag teams, it was Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill. First time ever as tag team partners taking on Nia Jax and Naomi. The heels jump-started the match. All 4 women started brawling. Tiffany split off with Nia. Jade split off with Naomi. Tiffany ran Nia into the ring steps. Nia ran Tiffany into the barricade. We skip ahead. After the final break, Tiffany took Nia over with a crucifix pin that Nia kicked out of. Jax came back with a Samoan drop. She hit the ropes. She was coming off with a leg drop. As she hit the ropes, though, Naomi was there. And Naomi tagged herself in. So after Nia lands the leg drop, she can't pin because she's not the legal woman. So she was very upset about this. And Naomi told her basically, get the hell out. So she dragged Tiffany over for a split-legged moonsault in the corner. Tiffany got the knees up, though. Jade got the hot tag. She ran wild. She, I believe, licked Naomi before giving her a choke slam. What is with people? I'm noticing this with the women. Who is the one in AEW who, Penelope Ford, right? Licks her opponents in the middle of a match. I've seen Mariah May, I think, do the same thing. And now we have Jade. It makes me miss Katrina from Lucha Underground, the Lick of Death. I don't know. What's with all the licking? You know what we need in this company? Remember the TV show Monk on USA with Tony Shalhoub? And I think he was like a big germaphobe. We need like a germaphobe character in WWE. Like, he's in a backstage segment talking to somebody and, person walks away and all. He pulls out the hand sanitizer and starts sanitizing his hands. I don't know. I feel like that gimmick can get over with the right person. Anyway, after the lick, she chokeslammed her, went for the pin, and Nia broke it up. She dragged Naomi back to their corner and tagged herself in, running senton on Jade from Nia. She covered her. Tiffany, though, hit a swanton bomb off the top to break up that pin attempt. Naomi ran in to go after Tiffany, and things broke down at this point. Tiffany was punching Naomi in the corner when Nia charged in and squashed both of them. Then she squashed Jade in the opposite corner and set up for the Annihilator, but Jade got up before she could come off the ropes. She snuck underneath her. She got in a powerbomb position, and she powerbombed Nia Jax out of the corner, and Jade gets the pin to win the match for the babyfaces. Even more reason to believe that Nia Jax is absolutely winning this match next week and becoming the #1 contender. After the match, as the referee went to go hand the title to Tiffany, Jade grabbed it, and she put the title over her shoulder, and she posed with it for a few seconds. Jade came face-to-face with Tiffany until Naomi attacked Jade from behind, knocked her into Tiffany, and then the show closed with Naomi posing with the Women's World Championship. Solid stuff here in this match from these four, and it was nice to see the women's champion featured in a main event match here on this show. But again, the Tiffany and Nia stuff, it feels like filler. It's just hard for me to get excited about something that really played itself out and peaked months ago. A very flat show. Very flat show with a very flat crowd, but they were not exactly given a whole hell of a lot to get excited about. This episode was a miss. And John Cena's coming out now, and he's counting down the number of appearances that he has left. He did that on Monday night. Was it 27, 26, something like that? I, too, am counting down. I am counting down the number of weeks, the number of episodes left until SmackDown moves back to 2 hours. I feel like we should have a party. We should have a celebration that night. Because there are ways to make a 3-hour wrestling show work, although I don't believe any wrestling show should be 3 hours on a weekly basis. I don't care how good the show is. I am of the belief that you give people just enough, but you leave them wanting more. And it just feels like everything with these wrestling shows now, it's all about like quantity over quality. How many matches can we squeeze into this pay-per-view? How many hours of content can we give them? And the problem is, they get paid for the extra content. So if USA Network goes to Vince McMahon 12 years ago and says, hey, we want to have a third hour of Raw, we'll pay you $50 million a year. It's like, oh shit. Okay, sure. Even if it's to the detriment of the television show. And I hate that. I just like the idea of, oh man, that was a great show. I can't believe it's over. It flew by. I can't wait for next week. The problem is SmackDown is just not a very good show. And like even at 2 hours. So you have 3 hours of it. And it just makes it that much more insufferable to sit through. But we're almost there. We only have a few more weeks. We won't have to wait too much longer. John Cena is back on the show next week. No surprise there, because it's 24 hours before Backlash. So he was on the final SmackDown before WrestleMania, so he'll be on the final SmackDown before Backlash next week. And so there will be no SmackDown review next week because I will be in Chicago. I'm calling the House of Glory show, so that is where I will be. But I will be back in time. I don't know when I'm getting back on Saturday, but I will be here for the Backlash post-show. But there will be no SmackDown review next week, so just be aware of that. What did you think of SmackDown in Des Moines, Iowa tonight? Ouch. Look at this. 27.6% thumbs up. Roughly 30% thumbs in the middle and 42.6% thumbs down. Yes, it was a very boring show. I do not disagree. It was just a bore. Don't know what else to say. When it's boring, I'm going to tell you. Let's get to your messages here. I know we got a big one earlier from... Oh, there's our boy. There's Psycho Sidro. I didn't even notice. Psycho Sidro is with us tonight. He remembered us. I've got to pull double duty and do a stream while I do commentary. Well, how do you expect me to watch two shows at the same time? How am I going to pull that off? Huh? Smart guy? How's that going to work? Dry Chicken Without Flavor says, I'm sad that Dakota Kai has been released. She should have been the first Intercontinental Champion. You will get Bird Girl, and you will like it. Lakers Pat says, say what you want of Russo. At least he gave everyone a storyline in a 2-hour show. How does WWE not realize that everybody... Oh, how does WWE not utilize everyone with all of their shows? Well, because they can only focus on so many things at once, or else they get a headache. I mean, you would think with the number of writers they have, it shouldn't be too hard of an issue, but the issue is that there's only so many hours of TV. I feel like half of their shows are nothing but just commercials and advertisements, or plugs for something, or hey, we got a new UFC fighter in the crowd. We got some Netflix A-list, not even A-list, fucking F-list, co-star on some new Netflix show that's going to be pulled after 3 months. Hey, he's in the front row, wave. And so half the show is spent on just nonsense and bullshit. So when you really break it down, even on a 3-hour show, what do you actually have, as far as TV time for the talent? Maybe 90 minutes? Realistically? That's the issue. I mean, there's only so much television time. It feels like, man, they have so much content, like too much content, but it's still a very limited amount of time, And it will be worse. It will make that problem worse when SmackDown moves back to 2 hours, but I'm sorry, I'm willing to accept that because I can't stand this show at 3 hours. So that's okay with me. They'll have to make it work. Dry Chicken says, Cody Rhodes and The Rock. Pro wrestling is cool in 2024. John Cena and Triple H ruin pro wrestling in 2025. I mean, they're not just pulling the curtain back, man. They're ripping the curtain off. It's like taking a shower with no curtain. That would be weird. Unless you're in a locker room or something, I guess. But I'd be in there wearing a bathing suit. You ain't going to see me. Holiday 197 says, hey, Solo, curious to know your thoughts on last week's TLC match. The Motor City Machine Guns would now benefit from being drafted to Raw. They would be. And I just talked about the TLC match, so hopefully that answered your question. Hey, we got Fire Panda coming in. And Fire Panda, this is before I even went live. Fire Panda dropped a $50 bomb. Thank you, Fire. It's so early, it's not even showing up in the left-hand column here. I have to look at it in a separate screen. Fire Panda said, to quote Zangetsu, because they put it perfectly, well, we all knew releases were coming, but what the fuck? Shout out to Zangetsu. Thank you, Fire Panda. I hope you're having a good night. I hope you're having a better night than the 15 people who lost their jobs. Ron says, feel like WWE underutilize Gigi and Cora. These talents get cut while they tout record gates and are paying Pat McAfee and Travis Scott to wrestle. Well, you don't have to like it. I don't necessarily like it, but Travis Scott and Pat McAfee are going to get more eyeballs for WWE than Oro Mensah will, or Javier Bernal, or Jakara Jackson, or Dakota Kai. That's the business decision that they're making. Doesn't make it right, but that's the way it is. Jerome says, happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday, Jerome. Dark Effect. Mr. Peabody wants to know if you had use of the Wayback Machine. You talking about the website or an actual Wayback Machine? What time period would you visit in wrestling history and why? Interesting. You know what? For me, it would be the mid 80s because I think it would be fun to follow classic 80s NWA in real time. I didn't, at that time, I grew up watching WWF. And I didn't really get exposed to the NWA, WCW stuff until later on, like early 90s. And that was really just WCW Saturday night. I missed a lot of really cool shit back in the 80s that would have been fun to experience in real time. So, that like mid to late 80s period was like the wrestling boom. Like, to me, that's like the best period in wrestling. So I would go back to that. If not that, I would go back to 1997. I think 1997 is WWE's real creative breakout year. I still feel like 2000 is their best creative year, but 97 is what set the table for everything that followed. And they were in the middle of the Monday Night War, with WCW, a guys jumping back and forth. So either one of those would be great. Prince Vegeta. It's a downgrade for McIntyre to be in a mid-card title match, just like it was a downgrade facing Priest at WrestleMania. I just hope he doesn't take the losing fall. Give that man another world title. There's no way he's taking the losing fall in that match. That would be stupid. I'm fairly certain that won't happen. Holiday says, I'd like to see Drew McIntyre win Money in the Bank in June. He needs to have another world title run later this year. Interestingly, Drew would then be one of two people to hold 2 consecutive Money in the Banks with CM Punk. Interesting. EJ Slem, as a Mets fan, do you remember Generation K? Oh, yes, I do. Did it hurt seeing 2 busts while Jason Isringhausen became an all-star closer with 300 saves elsewhere? Yeah. Was it Isringhausen? Is it Pulsif and Paul Wilson? Yeah, I remember that. They were supposed to be the future. Didn't quite work out that way. Josh Herman says, I'm so happy that I get to see Nia Jax on the main event of SmackDown over Alexa Bliss. Makes absolute sense by Triple H. I cut this show off as soon as they announced that main event. Absolute trash, he says. Josh Herman was not a fan of that. I can't say that I blame him. Joseph Stewart, do you know why Hulk Hogan went back to the red and yellow in WCW in 1999? Yes, because the NWO had run its course. And so it was time to go back to the red and yellow, brother. There was nothing left for him to do as Hollywood Hogan. He had already been doing it for 3 years at that point. So he went back to his tried and true. Yo-Yo Sup says releasing Dakota, Braun, Cora, etc. an hour before a show is bad enough, but to release them and then put 3 hours of bad TV on is infuriating. It is. Especially when you see some names on that list that could have contributed to the show. And then they give you bad TV. Joseph says, were you a fan of Billy Kidman in WCW? And what was your favorite Billy Kidman match in WCW? I liked Kidman. I don't have a favorite Kidman match. I didn't like him that much that I have a list of my favorite Billy Kidman matches. I used to hold my breath every time he would hit that shooting star press because it always looked so reckless. I think he almost killed Chavo with it once. Yo-Yo says, this year hasn't been very blissful. I think Bliss fan would agree. Justin G, if it's a consolation, Solo's cheeks aren't red. I thought that said concussion. Okay. Justin, thank you. Alex, you talk about the Rumble punch? Yeah, I think it's mostly worn off by now. It was a little rough there for a while. That 10% alcohol by volume hit me. Seagram's, you got a strong product there. I gotta try the other two now. Let me see this. Hold on. I have the card over here. Send me this neat little card here with the box. The Rumble Punch, which is the one that I was drinking earlier. It's a bold mix of watermelon, strawberry, guava, and lemon flavors that delivers a 10% ABV punch to your taste buds. So the other two that they sent me, one is Pineapple Powerhouse, which is a triple threat flavor combination of sweet pineapple, fiery cherry, and a lime finisher. And then the other one is Slammin' Blueberry. The fight for flavor just got real. It's got a bold blueberry flavor with a tart lemon taste, packing a 10% alcohol by volume punch that will have you coming back for more. So there you go, man. These are, you want to get a buzz going, these are pretty good. So I might try the blueberry one next. We'll see. You know, on Tuesday, actually. Tuesday is going to be my 1-year anniversary of doing Tuesday Night Titans with JD. So, yeah, we'll be having a little celebration. I may save one of these for Tuesday night. Maybe I'll drink them both. I'll double fist. 20% alcohol by volume. I might pass out during the show if I do that. The Rumble Punch, though, taste-wise, I liked it. I didn't know what to expect, but I mean, I enjoyed it. The other two, we'll see. Alexander, thank you for the $9.99. Says, I'm still bummed about that Dakota release. I still feel Lyra winning the belt was a mistake. Dakota could have had a run as the face of Damage Control against Ivy Nile and Roxanne Perez. She could have, yeah. She could have. Solomonster gets drunk and ruins his career live on YouTube. Well, that would be pretty shitty, wouldn't it? Especially since I just gave up the PR job. That would be a bad move. Alex with the 25. Brother Solo, today has been an awful day with news, from the roster cuts to the evident delay of GTA 6 to May of 2026. What are your thoughts on the delay? I don't know if the game's ever coming out. I kind of think it's never going to come out. They're just going to keep stringing people along for another few years. Honestly, when I saw the news, I just laughed. I just laughed. I'm seeing everybody freak out. I'm like, it's just like a running gag at this point. And then, you know, like when the game drops, like there's no way it could possibly live up to expectations. Like how many years has it been since the last game? It's insane. Brandon Proctor with the 22. It's the Veer of video games. Yes, it really is. We will get a Solomonster. We will get Solomonster in a video game before we get GTA 6. 12 years? It hasn't been 12 years. It hasn't been that long, has it? Yeah, apparently it looks like I'm breaking this news to some people here who weren't aware. Yes, unfortunately, GTA 6, according to Rockstar, has been delayed. It was supposed to come out this year. It has been delayed now to May of next year. 12 more months. You've got to wait. Brandon, though, says, never got the chance to say it, but congrats on 86,000 and well on the way to 87. Thank you, Brandon. We're right about halfway between 86 and 87, so we're charging towards 87,000 subs. Sucks to hear about all the releases. Hope they're all able to find work. Backlash is not looking great. Quite the come down after that last 2 years. Oh, yeah, I mean, that Backlash in Puerto Rico 2 years ago. How great was that? I still remember it was the opening match, right? Bianca and Io. And then, of course, we had Priest and Bad Bunny, which was way more fun than it had any right to be. Row Roman Reigns gently down the stream. Row Roman Reigns gently down the stream. Ah, the Juliet. Rowing Roman down the stream. Yeah, and I was going to say Backlash in Lyon, France last year with that crowd. My God. And the Cody AJ match. I'll tell you what, though, man. Once that bell rings in Orton and Cena, that crowd in St. Louis is going to have to do some heavy lifting. That's all I'm going to say. Wow, so GTA 5, 2013, September 17th, 2013. Yeah, but after GTA 5, wasn't there, like, they had Vice City and, maybe that was Vice City. Okay, maybe it was 12 years. That's crazy. Yeah, but you know what, though? I'm still waiting on a proper sequel or prequel to Cloverfield. And that came out in 2008. And supposedly they're working on an actual, like, direct sequel this time. I heard that 2 years ago. I haven't heard anything new about it. Oh my God, look, there's Vato Sting. He doesn't appear very... That's Sting. He doesn't appear very often. But there he is, Vato Sting, in one of our Super Chats. And you thought you knew all of Sting's gimmicks, but you never saw Vato Sting, did you? Vice City came after GTA 3. Wow, okay, so my timeline was way off. Chris O'Neill, Nikita Lyons, still having a job is diabolical. Nikita Lyons actually is now working, I think, Evolve. It takes a lot. It says a lot when you are effectively demoted from developmental to the developmental of developmental. Maybe she'll be on the next season of LFG. Dark Effect with a 20. I tried to buy tickets for Raw on May 12 because my kids, specifically my daughter, love wrestling and WWE. However, the middle of the road tickets were about $300 plus tax. Would have ended up paying over $1,000, and sadly, I just can't. Yeah, that's...
It's the amazing Gunther.
That's crazy.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
All hail the mighty Kingnator. Dropping a $50 Gunther bomb here on a Friday night. You love to see it. You love to see it. Thank you, Kingnator. I salute you, good sir. Yes, Vato Sting. You didn't know he existed, did you? He underwent many transformations in TNA. We had Joker Sting, we had Vato Sting. We are 7 out of 10, I just noticed, on the Super Chat goal for the bonus Be the Booker, so we're only 3 away. We're getting at least one round to Be the Booker, which is good, because we didn't do one on Wednesday night, because apparently nobody gives a fuck about Dynamite, so it was a dead night. It was quite the come down, I will say, from Raw and from WrestleMania week. But we easily hit the likes goal tonight, so we're doing at least one round. That's my measure of like how hot or cold the AEW product is. And it certainly doesn't feel hot to me right now. Yo-Yo says, with Liv on hiatus, Alexa and Nikki in the Levesque Penitentiary in the releases today, is the tag division dead? What could be done in the short term? Nothing. The women's tag team division is dead. There's really nothing to do. Duff's Vids. What do strippers and peanut butter have in common? They both spread for bread.
You suck.
What is the donation amount for Vatos? Vatos thing is one of the randoms. It's one of the randos. You never know when it's going to pop up. I can make it a specific amount. I don't know what amount to make it though.
Off. It's a direction you can fuck.
That is where you can fuck, says Justin G. The $22 super chat. Number one, Homo sapien. People are making too many apocalypse jokes. It's like they think there's no tomorrow. Nick. Caden and Carter being released is fucking criminal. They were the best pure tag team the women's division had in ring, and they never even really bothered with them. It's a waste. It absolutely is a waste. They could have done more with them. They chose not to. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, you don't get any disagreement from me. Duff's Vids, what do you call a nurse with dirty knees? The head nurse. Okay. All right. Yo-Yo says, maybe Cora got heat with Triple H and Becky with that tweet. With that tweet? Which tweet are we talking about? There's so many of them. Which tweet are we talking about here? Kawan can't believe there was a Vatos thing. Yes, there was. See, you learn something new. When you tune in, you never know what you're going to see. We have Psycho Sidro, channel member for 10 months. Learned the word for constipation in German. Far from Pupen. That was awful. And quietest place I lived is right above a bowling alley. So quiet you could hear a pin drop. And you guys are just full of them tonight, aren't you? Who remembers the movie Short Circuit and the Los Locos song? It might have been the second movie. I don't remember if it was the first movie or the second movie. That Los Locos song still lives in my head. Duff's Vids, how many geez. Thank you, Duffs. Oh man. The Mount Vernon kid Christopher Bennett solo after seeing this nonsense with R-Truth again. Please don't tell me he gets involved and screws Randy. Oh, I think there's a chance. I mean, I put it out there. I don't know what the percentage is. I can't really put a percentage on it, but I think it's possible. Justin, I don't think it's Dos Locos. I think it's Los Locos. Los Locos kick your ass. It's not Dos Locos. Sidro, broke up with my girlfriend Lorraine because I was seeing another girl named Claire Lee. Good news is that I can... You got me. You got me with that one. You got me with that one. You got me with that one. Just broke up with my girlfriend Lorraine because I was seeing another girl named Claire Lee. Good news is I can see Claire Lee now. I can see Claire Lee now. Lorraine has gone. My God. I bet you feel really good about yourself right now, don't you? You should. You should. That doesn't happen very often. Near says, just imagine if truth screws Orton. The reaction in St. Louis. Well, it's St. Louis, but I kind of like St. Louis better. Duff's Vids, why can't you have sex after playing Assassin's Creed? Because Ubisoft. Oh, I think I said that wrong. All right, I butchered it. I completely butchered the punchline. Why can't you have sex after playing Assassin's Creed? Because Ubisoft. There you go. That's my fault. I butchered the punchline there. The way I said it doesn't make any sense. And Duff's Vid says, have you seen the movie about a little fish with cancer finding chemo? Somebody had a different joke, but it was they were using Chemo Leopoldo's name. Remember Chemo, the UFC fighter from many years ago? I could have sworn there was a similar joke someone used once that mentioned his name, and like it was almost like the same joke. Sidro says, dude one says, yo bro. Dude two, yeah bro. Dude one, can you hand me a pamphlet? Dude two says, brochure. And Bugs Bunny won't accept files through Google Drive, only WhatsApp doc. Where do you come up with these? Duff's Vid says, what do you call a blonde who dyes their hair a different color? Artificial intelligence. Larry Jester, what if they create some catering championships? Well, I mean, they could do something like they have the Nathan's hot dog eating contest every year. They could have food contests for all the people sitting backstage and catering. Could do that. Look at this. We are one away from the goal. You know, if we end up doing 2 Be the Bookers tonight, it kind of makes up for the one we didn't do on Wednesday. M. Mills coming in with a $20 super chat. That brings us one step closer. We got Broly. Says, Mariah May is one of the smartest ones out there. Her dream is WWE, but she went to make a name for herself first, and now she is a superstar. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people who didn't know about her. I knew of her, and I had seen some of her matches, but I didn't really see a lot of her work until she came to AEW, and then I was blown away by just pretty much everything she did. I just think, as a television personality, as a character in that storyline, she shined. And then her in-ring work is very good. You know, and she learned over in Japan, so she's not afraid to go in there and, you know, hit somebody or get hit. So I just think she's fun to watch all around. She's got that charisma. She's got that look. I mean, she just looks like a star. And she will do very well when she goes to WWE. And I have no doubt she will end up in WWE. Denard. Change the name to Legends and Future Endeavors. That probably would be more accurate. And we did hit the goal. We are now 10 out of 10. Here we go. We're getting a double dose of Be the Booker in just a few moments here. Alexander. They could have fired Tozawa, Nikita Lyons, Pretty Deadly, B-Fab, and some of the LWO and Legado del Fantasma, and that I would not have shed a tear. Well, I mean, that's just dumb. I don't want to see any of those people get fired. Why would you want to see those people lose their jobs? Would it really make a difference in terms of the on-air product right now? No, because every single one of those people that you just named, like some of the people in these releases tonight, are highly expendable because they're just not in a real prominent position right now. So it just makes it easy for the company to dispose of them if they want to get rid of them. You know? But to say that I want to see, I mean, you just rattled off like half a dozen different people. I don't want to see those people lose their job. Broly. Had Mariah signed with WWE after her run in Stardom, she might have been on this list tonight. I'm going to say she wouldn't have been on this list. That's why her run on AEW is important. She is now an asset. She's definitely in a much better position now than she would have been if she would have just come straight to WWE. And if she wanted to stay in AEW and sign one more contract and then go to WWE, it's smart too, because she could just be using this for negotiating leverage. She's in a great position right now, no matter what she does, because she's going to make really good money no matter where she goes, still have visibility on television. And when that contract is up, she'll still be young and she'll be able to go wherever she wants to go. So she's in the catbird seat right now. She can pretty much do whatever she wants. Alexander says WWE could have fired The Rock for that bullshit WrestleMania 41 ending and saved so much money if they wanted to cut expenses that badly. They could have fired The Rock. You realize he's on the board of directors, right? I don't believe he's even working with a talent contract. It's going to be awfully hard to do that. Dry Chicken says WWE is better off creating a third women's title belt to replace the women's tag belts. I'll just watch the Knockouts tag team division over WWE. Yeah, I don't know why you would even suggest creating a third women's title belt. That's a terrible idea. They already have 4 of them. 5 if you count the tag belts, but they have 4 of them already. What do they need another one for? Yo-Yo says, Alexa against Tiffany is better than Tiffany against the fridge. Alexa against Tiffany. We haven't seen that yet, have we? Alexander, Tiffany against Stephanie Vicaire would slap. Yes, it would. Imagine Stephanie Vicaire and Mariah May in a feud. That would be great. The Mount Vernon Kid says, after 36 months of channel membership, I feel Solo that they should have just left the tag team titles for the women in NXT. It made more sense to have it on that promotion. It still does, because the competition down there is so much better than it would be on the main roster. They could always transition the belts back to NXT. I wouldn't have an issue with that. Darth Panic, R-Truth is the third man, he says. The Juliet with a $20 super chat. Weird coincidence that yesterday I was thinking that Orton should punt kick Cena since we were robbed of one at WrestleMania. And tonight Orton threatened to punt kick him through the St. Louis arches. Also, 5 more to the Be the Booker goal. You could tell this came 30 minutes ago. Nick Grasso, where are Alexa Bliss and the Wyatt Six? Alexa could have been a fresh addition to the women's title scene, especially with the pops that she was getting. I mean, brother, I have no idea. I don't know why you would squander that reaction that she got. I mean, we're already a few weeks removed from WrestleMania, still no sign. I have no idea what's going on. Hydrograd. PW Insider just reported that TNA has banned excessive blood and blading. What are your thoughts? I think it's great. I think blood should be used sparingly, only in certain situations. That makes it more effective. I don't have an issue with that. If it's for safety reasons, then even better. I have no issue with that. Yo-Yo says, I need a joint and Seagrams after this show. Well, you can't get a Rumble Punch from me because it's already gone. Or most of it is anyway. Retro KOH, imagine justifying all these extra women's titles, then scrapping people who could fill that division. Just get rid of the extra belts. Damn it, Triple H. Moxley will not be in TNA. No. John Moxley will not be signing with TNA Wrestling. DX Extreme. MWE. This song is like a living Four Horsemen montage. You're talking about Hardline? I believe Hardline by Sandman is the song that you are referring to. I'll play that again here in a second. It's great. I love it. Well, this one is actually the one playing right now is also a little bit. Richie, did you know The Rock banned people from messaging him on Instagram unless he follows you on Instagram? I'm surprised it took him this long. I don't think that people should be allowed to send you a message unless you want them to. Same thing on Twitter. I think that's the way it should be. I don't know why it took him this long. EJ Slamp, 10 years ago, you picked Yoenis Cespedes as a Mets player who would make a good pro wrestler. Who on the current roster would you pick today? On the current Mets roster? Who would be a good pro wrestler? You know what? I think the Polar Bear. I think the Polar Bear would actually make a good pro wrestler. Josh Herman Solo, I was at the midnight release of GTA 5 back when that was a thing, if that helps. So what are they going to do with GTA 6 if they have a midnight release? I mean, people will literally be trampled, like going into Walmart to pick up a copy of this game. Like if they've been waiting 13 years, people are going to die. Like if they have a midnight release, I shudder to think what that's going to look like. The Juliet, Tanahashi, and AJ Styles will have their retirement matches before GTA 6 comes out. Also, best wishes to Spurs coach Greg Popovich on his retirement. I did see that. I noticed that earlier on ESPN.com that Popovich, I believe, retired. I don't know if there was a specific reason, if there's a health reason, but all the best to him. Power Spying Games, GTA 7 might be released before GTA 6. I think so, yeah. King Nader with a $50 bomb. That's deserving of another air horn. No message, just dropping some love. You love to see it. Yeah, I mean, I know things are digital now, but don't they still have that? They still have midnight releases where people go buy the physical media, don't they? It's not all digital, is it? Holiday says WWE needs to focus on building the mid-card to determine the next top stars. Many of their top guys are in their 40s and can't rely on them in 10 years. Well, I mean, that's what they should be doing with people like Carmelo Hayes, for example. Tiffany Stratton is very young. It's not like they don't have people on the main roster right now who are still relatively new, relatively young. But yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of stars on the roster who are aging out slowly but surely. I mean, look, they debuted the Motor City Machine Guns this past year, right? After 18 years together, they finally made their debut in WWE, but it's not like they're spring chickens anymore. Got John Cena on TV, got Randy Orton. Cody's probably right around 40, right? Just shy of 40. bringing back Aleister Black and Miro and these people. I mean, you want to have a mix of big names, you know, older veterans and younger talents. They have a ton of younger talent in NXT right now. They're not all ready to be on the main roster yet, but yeah, when you have people like Trick Williams and Obafemi, and I mean Ricky Starks even. Ricky Starks is probably what, 34? Maybe 35? You know what I can't wrap my head around? I remember when Bob Backlund came back to WWE in 92, early 93. And the story was like, he's the former champion, the old guy coming back for one more run. And he was 43. And I'm like, it just doesn't compute with me. I just think people younger looked older back then. There's something about like back then, like in the 80s, especially, like people were not that old, but they looked a lot older than like Arn Anderson, I think, was born looking like that. I think Arn Anderson was born looking middle-aged. Bob Backlund was 43. It's crazy. Justin G. I really can't afford this, but someone's got to get us 2 away from bonus Be the Booker. But seriously, which release surprises you the most and why? Aside from the retirement of the Strowman Express. Love you, chat. Yeah, Earthquake. That's right, Earthquake. Think about that. When Earthquake had that feud with Hogan in 1990, I think he was 26 years old. That's crazy. Ric Flair was born looking like an old man. Now the older you are, or the older you get, the younger you look. Well, that's certainly true in my case. That's what's so crazy about it. Like, think back to that Backlund thing, and they were really pushing, like, he's like the old guy. I'm like, the age that he was at then, like, I'm right there. Like, my mind just, I can't accept that. As far as, yes, the Strowman Express is hereby retired. Unfortunately, there will be no more Strowman Express. Pour one out for the Strowman Express. The train has been taken off the tracks. It is being put in the garage. Perhaps one day it will reappear and be dusted off, but it will be some time before you see the Strowman Express again. Dude, up until like a few years ago, I would still occasionally walk into like a liquor store and be carded. Like, it's insane. The release that surprised me the most, though, was Strowman. I mean, again, I talked about this at the beginning of the stream. It was the Strowman one. 89 Tech, Cena Sr. to make a cameo to punt Orton. Maybe Cena will attack Cowboy Bob if he's there. Power Spying Games, Nikita has been plagued by ACL tears, partly because of her wrestling style. Also, I doubt her heart is in the business. And give that Claire Lee joke a Be the Booker bell. M. Mills, thank you for not only the $120 super chat, but the $2.40 in total from M. Mills. Always coming in the clutch. Alex says, you think both Britt and Mariah come to WWE in the next 12 months? And if so, that women's division is going to be insane. I don't think Britt does. I think Mariah does. I don't know what Britt's contract status is, and I don't think they need her right now. Cripple Punk 91. I like to tell dad jokes. Sometimes he laughs. That's some weird, like, dad joke inception there. But it works. It's actually very clever. Psycho Sidro. I met a woman outside the mall crying. She had lost $200. So I gave her $40 from the I gave her $40 from the $200 that I found. When God blesses you, you must bless others. Bless you, Sidro. Alex. Boy, you're on fire tonight. Alex with Saturday night's main event and Double or Nothing being on the 24th and the 25th, respectively. Are we looking at a busy weekend for Solo in terms of post-show reviews? It will be a busy weekend for me. I will not be here on the 24th. I have a party to go to, so I am skipping out on Saturday night's main event that night, but I will be doing a podcast the next day, and I will very likely be going live, God knows what hour, for Double or Nothing. But yeah, I will not be here that Saturday night. I am busy. But thankfully, there is a podcast the next day, so I can watch it when I get home and cover it on there. Even though I will be losing money that night. But it's just the way it has to be. Look, I'm already looking ahead to June 7th. You know, June 7th is going to be a very busy day. Got World's End. Got Money in the Bank. We have House of Glory that night. I will be at House of Glory. So I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know how that's going to work. Luis. Oh, our boy Luis is here. Randy Orton should be going to TNA and demanding a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match against Zhao Hendry. I don't know where that W came from. Rest in peace, Ruth Boozy. Or Buzzy. Boozy. I don't mean to laugh, but like that sounded like a descriptive term. Ruth Buzzy. Well, I don't know who Zhao Hendry is, but Randy Orton should be going for a TNA World Heavyweight Championship match. I don't think he cares about the TNA World Heavyweight title. Near says, why Dave can't eat ice cream? He melts her. It's good to see Robert E. Lee with us tonight in the chat, waiting for Be the Booker. Richie says, what is your opinion about The Rock's comment to Dave? Talking about La Greca? I got a whole video on that, brother. 50,000 views. It's right here on this very channel. You should go check it out. Number one, Homo sapien. What is worse than two girls running with scissors? Two girls scissoring with the runs. I can't debate that. That would be pretty bad. Oh my God. It's actually quite disgusting now that you mention that. Two girls scissoring with the runs. There's a visual for you. We got a classy bunch here. Well, thank you for the likes. We are at 528 likes. We hit our goal in the chat as well, which means we're going to make up for Wednesday. We're going to make up for that Dynamite stream. And we got 2 installments of Be the Booker. And Chris Manson just unlocked. We don't get too many of these. He has unlocked his blue skull in the chat, a channel member, a Sound Off legend, for 48 months. Look at that blue skull. Blue's my favorite color. So anyway, Nick Grasso, I don't know if you heard Hogan's latest lie, saying that he wrestled Lesnar after his UFC run. What is your opinion on real American freestyle wrestling? Tune into the podcast this weekend. I'll be talking about it there. But yes, that is not the first time Hogan has told that lie, by the way. He told that lie 2 years ago on Joe Rogan's show. So people saying, oh, it's a brand new lie. Like, no, it's a lie, but it's a lie that he's told before. I'll talk about that lie and real American freestyle wrestling Sunday on the Sound Off. That's called a tease. You'll have to tune in. Let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Oh, I don't. You know, if you were to show this image right here of John Cena and Randy Orton to somebody who knew nothing about wrestling and there was no context to this whatsoever, I would think that they might think this is something else. This was from their I Quit match at Breaking Point in 2009. All right, be the booker time. Round number 1. I know you guys are excited. I know I am. Tag team be the booker. Let's take it for a spin, and we land on the Usos, Jimmy and Jay. Throw up the ones for the Usos. WWE would have you believe the greatest tag team of all time, the Usos. 50 Shades of Cena. All right, the Usos against... Sing the song, everybody. Everybody sing the song. American males. American males. American males. Scotty Riggs and Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Long before he was buff, he was Marcus Alexander Bagwell. I feel like the American males, they were not a bad team. And I feel like the American males against the Usos could be a good match. So I gave it the bell. American males. American males. I sometimes forget the lyrics to that song. It's very complicated. All right, women's be the booker. We begin with Willow. Willow Nightingale. Willow is great. Willow Nightingale is going to be taking on Tiffany Stratton. This is Tiffany Stratton with Julia's hair. Julia's got to bring back the braids. Julia's got to bring back the braids. And our main event of the evening, the match that sold the tickets, the match that put the asses every 18 inches, begins with the bad guy, Razor Ramon. And Razor Ramon will be facing who? Let's find out. Build the anticipation a little bit. Razor Ramon against the Miz. We were on our way to a clean sweep, and then this happened. Why do I have deja vu? Why do I feel like I've booked this match before? Well, that ruined it. Because I don't want that to be my main event. We could do better. I know we could do better. Did we just have this? I feel like I've booked this match before. I feel like I booked this match last week. And I buzzed it then and I buzzed it now. And if it comes up again next week, I'm going to buzz it again. See, I knew I wasn't crazy. We did do that last week. Look at this. Miz ruined another main event. All right, well, now we get to do it again, but this time we get to pick stipulations. We were so close. All right, we're going to book a tag team match first, and it's going to be, oh no. It's the Yappa Pie strap match. We are booking a Yappa Pie strap match. And yes, this was a real thing. If you weren't around back then, don't ask. I'm just trying to think, can we do a tag match with that stipulation, though? Probably not, right? We'll do a women's match first then. My apologies to the ladies, but we're going to have a Yappa Pie strap match with the women. The women will have to strap each other. Yappa Pie style. And we begin with the reigning AEW TBS champion, the Belt Collector. You too can get private text messages from Mercedes Moné if you are a super fan for just $99 a month. You can speak to your favorite wrestler. She's an entrepreneur now. The CEO wants to hear from you for just $99 a month. And the CEO will be in a Yappa Pie strap match against Dana Brooke. No clean sweeps tonight. Not even one. Not even one. You believe this? All right, our next match will be a tag team Inferno match. It's going to get hot. Feels hot in here. All right, a tag team Inferno match. Somebody's going to burn. Let's find out who. Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. Uh-oh. Sheiky baby. He's going to be in an Inferno match. Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. They will be taking on Rey Mysterio and Batista. How are we feeling about this match? Rey Mysterio and Batista against Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik in an Inferno match. This is a total clash of generations here. We have the mid-'80s clashing with a stipulation from the late 90s and a tag team from the mid-2000s. This is quite the mix here. I don't know which way to go on this. I'm leaning towards Bell. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's an interesting blend of three different generations. I'm intrigued. And last but certainly not least, we have our main event, which is going to be an APA Invitational. There you see, I don't know what Bradshaw is doing. Where is Bradshaw's right fist? I don't know what he is doing to that Easter Bunny, but I'm sure not the only time Bradshaw did something like that, but we won't get into the drop soap story with Edge in the early days of his career. But APA Invitational is going to be our main event here. So there it is. This is basically, it's like a free-for-all barroom brawl. The Easter Bunny is there. Everybody is there. We begin with Sting. We begin with Sting. Poor Sting. Look at Sting in this image. Blood pouring out of his... Is that his tongue? Or is that blood? Blood pouring out of his mouth. Blood pouring out of this man's mouth. This poor man. Oh. Sting in an APA Invitational against Bruno Sammartino. What a match. Bruno Sammartino and Sting, basically in like a barroom brawl, and the Easter Bunny is there. Bruno Sammartino. Look at that shitty belt around his waist. Thankfully, the title belts evolved over the years. That is one shitty looking title belt. I'm sorry. I think I'm going to have to add Vato Sting to be the booker. We can't just have that image of Sting. We have Surfer Sting, we have Crow Sting, we have Bloody Sting. And I don't think Joker Sting is in there. He probably should be. And I think I may need to add Vato Sting to be the booker. That guy. You don't want to fuck with him. Crazy says, I got to meet the Solomonster in my hometown of Chicago. Always listen to the sound of during the long days. He says, okay, you have to meet. Well, if you want to meet me, I'll be in Chicago in a week. You should be there. EJ says, if Brett stays and Montreal doesn't happen, how do you think a face Owen versus heel Brett would have been? Would it have worked? Yeah, I think it could have worked. I don't know that they would have had an interest in doing it, but yeah, I think it could have worked. RDS Harry, another great review as always, brother. Thank you, Harry. Always good to hear from Harry. Power Spying Games, we've booked The Miz and Razor before. In 2023. I thought we booked it last week. He's saying we booked it 2 years ago. And Duff's Vids. Where do bad rainbows go? To Prism. It's a light sentence, but it gives them time to reflect. Well done. Well done. I like how it just kept going. He strung it all together. It all made sense. Well, we have reached the end of the rainbow here. And I thank you all for hanging out with me here on a Rumble Punch Friday night for a very boring episode of SmackDown. It ain't ever boring here, though. No matter how boring SmackDown might be or how boring Dynamite might be or whatever we might be watching, we always try to make it fun here. And you made it fun tonight. A great way to kick off the month of May. Hopefully we'll keep rocking and rolling like this. Again, there will be no SmackDown review next Friday. I will not be here. But I will be here on Monday, and I will be here next Wednesday for Dynamite. So join me then. Of course, as I mentioned, I'll be over on JD's channel on Tuesday. That's going to be episode, 94 that we're up to, but my 1 year anniversary of doing TNT. We just had an episode, not this past one, but the previous week, that is actually close to 80,000 views. Like, we've been killing it with the shows, and I appreciate all the support here and there. Again, hit that like button on your way out if you have not already done so. Thank you for all of the support. Be well. Stay safe. Have yourselves a great weekend. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's May 3rd, right? And then Sunday is episode 911 of The Sound Off. May the 4th be with you. We're going to have some fun on the podcast as well. All right. Take care, guys. I'll see you back here soon.